Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Good God, why do I have so much crap to pack? My move back to Philly is upon me, and right now, I don't have time to go grocery shop or to waste money in a restaurant with overpriced appetizers. Thankfully, HelloFresh has my back in times like these. With HelloFresh, you can save money and choose from a variety of meal plans. I'm talking over 40 weekly recipes to give you a ton of options, like their soy glazed salmon with rice or mushroom and chive risotto, and you can be sure their ingredients are delivered straight from the farm and to your home in no time at all, ensuring their quality. Weekly meal plans are also easily customizable. Swap out different proteins or side dishes, go completely organic, or maybe get something your kids would like, or consider their vegan options. Whatever you choose, it's all delivered directly to your doorstep, with each box coming complete with easy to follow recipes so that prep and cooking take no time at all, wrapped up all nice and neat, saving all waste and portion just right to make sure you use everything in the box. As someone who works from home, having stuff delivered to me is very convenient, and I also like to maintain a stable weight. HelloFresh not only makes that easy to track, but the food actually tastes good, and I've been using them for over a year now. I'm more than happy to do so. It also helps that I'm a dude that loves to cook, and HelloFresh keeps my hands busy. And if you want to get started yourself, go to HelloFresh.com and use code SCMJ60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com, code SCMJ60 for 60% off plus free shipping. I hope you enjoy whatever you decide to cook, and your support for this channel is always greatly appreciated. Now let's continue on with the show. Shoutouts to some of my $10 patrons, including JDude93, DFM, Stephen Wright, Cyrus Davania, Mason Hiles, Jerf Rockstar, Samuel Bull, Liam, Bevins Odyssey, Nerdzilla, Bubby NE, Ven, Barry Aldridge, Sharadine, Alex Goodrich, your boy Beowulf, Spicy Pandotter, Vangel Jergo, and Exopaz. More patron shoutouts to follow at the end of the video. Okay, so considering I already tackled 2 whole franchises now, I figured I'd make time for one more before moving on. And this one is a pretty significant chapter in the Mega Man franchise because Mega Man Legends is more or less the franchise's true jump into 3D. I am aware of Mega Man Battle & Chase, the racing game that was originally exclusive to overseas markets until the Mega Man X collection back in 2006, but I'm talking more in a traditional sense. Anyway, headed by Capcom Production Studio 2 with Keiji Inafune as acting producer behind the scenes, Mega Man Legends, originally named Mega Man Neo, and then Mega Man Nova because folks didn't like Neo, and then Mega Man Legends because of trademark issues with the word Nova, and in Japan it's Rockman Dash. Make up your minds, Capcom, my god. Mega Man Legends would take a new incarnation of the Blue Bomber and place him in a fully 3D environment. The needle was shifting, while the traditional Mega Man experiences were still ongoing. Mega Man 8, Mega Man X4, that cash grab for the Super Nintendo, yes, I'm still bitter about that. The 5th generation was a time of experimentation. All the classics from before were going 3D, Mega Man was no exception. And not just on the PlayStation, but on the Nintendo 64 too. But it wasn't called Legends there, it was just Mega Man 64, to the confusion of some parents out there, I bet. They just got their kid Mega Man 8 and they're already asking for Mega Man 64? Where'd the other 56 games go? But this is a first for me. Until now, I never played Mega Man Legends. It was something I was just familiar with. I think I recall reading a few magazine publications at the time of the game's release. I'm talking like EGM, Game Fan, Game Pro, but I don't think I ever saw a Mega Man Legends commercial running around this time, if there even was any at all. Of course, though, I saw all the daytime video game rental stores. And I remember, even in my youth, thinking that the box art for all 3 games were kind of lame. Classic Mega Man and Mega Man X had some cool traditional artwork to accompany the games. But for Legends, at least here in the US, it was just a basic 3D render of Mega Man. And they did this with all 3 games of the series, Legends, Tron-Bonne, and Legends 2. Just looks ugly. I'd rather they just use the Japanese artwork. It's not exactly action-packed, I'm aware, but I think they're visually more stimulating, especially Legends 2. I love this cover art. My first real exposure to the game was watching my friend Matt play for SGB years ago, and though this didn't immediately convince me to pick it up right then and there, I recall thinking, you know what? I think I have something to look forward to when I eventually get to it for this channel. And here we are, about 10 years later. Okay, so my plan for the next 3 videos is to focus on the Legend series exclusively, and originally I was going to make this like a large video covering all 3 games at once, but even considering the upcoming move to Philly, which has been taking all of my time, I still didn't want to, make you guys wait too long between videos like I did between Zero and ZX, although I do appreciate you guys tuning in anyway and watching them and enjoying them. That really means a lot to me. So I want to get the Legend series under my belt before my move in the beginning of April, so I could have my palate cleansed just in time for Resident Evil 4 Remake, and you bet your ass I'm making a video on that as soon as I can. I can't wait. So for Legends 1, I decided to play the original PlayStation release on emulation. Now I do own all 3 games digitally on my PlayStation 3, but I really didn't feel like whipping out my PlayStation 3. Not that it's difficult to record these games, it's just annoying. Built-in HDCP encryption, you gotta get the HDMI splitters, and sometimes the video signals can get a little weird. It's just easier for me if I emulate it. I recommend you get them digitally while you still can though, because the moment the PlayStation 3 store closes for good luck getting these at a reasonable price physically. Outside of some Japanese only PlayStation Portable releases and very old PC releases from the early 2000s, the Legends games have never been re-released on modern hardware. Personally, I think it's only a matter of time before the Legends series gets its own legacy collection of some sort, but until that day, you should get these games digitally while you still can. But let's get things moving though. What did I ultimately think of Mega Man Legends? It's a new Mega Man in a new setting. I think chronologically speaking, the Legends games are like thousands of years after the ZX games, and man, I gotta ask, what the fuck happened here? The whole world's been flooded, the only remnants of civilization being a few islands here and there. I mean, the folks seem happy enough, but holy shit, talk about a fucking reset. Maybe this is what Master Thomas was referring to in ZX7, huh? Now, well, in this world, there exist explorers known as diggers that search the world looking for refractors, crystals that act as the world's energy source to keep civilization afloat. It's believed that a humongous energy source known as the Mother Lode exists somewhere among the vast ocean, and that explorers one day hope to find it so that the world never has to worry about running out of energy. It seems like every other Mega Man series has something to do with like an energy crisis of some sort. The opening narration already does a good job setting the foundation for this game, so this feels a little redundant for me to say. But I gotta ask, what voice direction was this dude given? Because it sounds like he was asked to read this as if everyone playing this game was a preschooler.
However, over the years, the story of a fabulous treasure, the legendary Mother Lode, began to be whispered among the diggers.
Ooh, whisper more into my ear, Daddy.
Seeking this Mother Lode, diggers travel from one island to another in their flying machines.
Ooh, a flying machine. Oh, I do love those. Anyway, it's funny in hindsight that this whole Mother Lode spiel really has nothing to do with events that are going to transpire throughout this story. Spoiler warning, we never find the thing in this game. It's just not that important in the grand scheme. But we're introduced to our main set of protagonists now, Mega Man Volnut and his spotter Roll, alongside Barrel Casket, an old man that years ago found Mega Man Volnut as a baby during an expedition and took him into his family. Then we got this cute little dancing monkey named Data. Ooh, think of all the merchandise they can sell with this guy. The gang is seen exploring a set of ruins in search of a new refractor crystal to help pay the bills. After a successful expedition complete with a cheeky Indiana Jones reference, the gang find themselves in hot water when their airship, the Flutter, starts suffering engine problems, forcing the guys to crash land on the nearby Cadillacs Island. Since the Flutter is in dire need of a new refractor shard to get her running again, Volnut and Roll figured might as well get comfortable and start exploring the island for possible answers to their conundrum. They take some time to get acquainted with some of the locals, most being quite jovial. Despite living in an island far removed from any other hint of civilization, Cadillac still has a thriving metropolitan area. It's got a mall, it's got an electronics store that even thousands of years later still sells VHS players, it's got a museum, it's got government buildings, a TV station where you kick the fucking shit out of a dog. Really, if you weren't aware the rest of the world is underwater, you'd get the idea that things are just fine in the world of Mega Man Legends. But a group of sky pirates soon enter the scene to cause a ruckus. The Bond family, consisting of Tron and her many servbots, Teasel, and their very large baby brother Bon. They're after this legendary treasure supposedly located deep within Cadillacs Island, and they're not afraid to cause some collateral damage to get things moving. The mayor of Cadillacs insists that Mega Man stop the Bonds from obtaining the treasure, since it's believed that a great disaster would befall the island if it was discovered, so naturally, things will transpire to a point where Volnut will find himself deep within the island and discover this hidden treasure for himself, but it sure as shit ain't no fucking treasure. So, alright, after opening the path to the main gate housing the island's greatest depths, Volnut begins to feel a sense of familiarity as he discovers this stasis chamber containing this happy-looking fellow classified as Mega Man Juno, a robot charged with wiping out the island when its population grows out of control. You see, it turns out Cadillacs Island was originally designed as a controlled environment for carbons. That's what they call the people in this world. But they're a little more than that, since carbons are, in fact, artificial humans. So human-like, in fact. I have to wonder why the game even bothers making that distinction. I mean, does it really matter if they're artificial? You know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. Anyway, given that the world's resources are in very limited supply and because the planet is 98% water at this point, the unseen powers that be don't want life growing out of control, so every once in a while, the island is wiped out to begin life anew. Jesus Christ, remember when we were just trying to fix our ship and locating the mother lode? Whatever happened to that guy? But Juno, recognizing Volna from a previous life, realizes that the kid doesn't quite remember his past life, so he reveals to the poor lost child that he is actually Mega Man Trigger, a purifier-class robot assigned to keep check on the carbons and to protect this mother entity, whatever that is. Mega Man Juno takes his awakening as a sign that it's time to begin the purge, which Volna doesn't want happening, so the two end up butting heads, with Volna telling Juno to cut that shit out. However, Juno manages to give the final command for the purge before passing away, and all hope seems lost. The island looks like it's about to be destroyed, until Volnut's little monkey buddy Data, like an absolute boss, overrides the command and tells the computer that Juno is full of shit. Data is revealed to be a memory storage unit for Volnut that, in time, he'll be able to reveal everything to Volnut. What he is, why he lost his memory, his original function, and mission, but not now. That's what sequels are for, idiots. Thanks for buying our game. Catalog's island is saved and our heroes wave goodbye as they take off in the flutter to resume what they set off to do. What was that again? I don't know, something about someone's load. Jesus, this game's plot's backloaded as shit. It goes from 1 to 100 in the span of just a couple of minutes. I gotta emphasize that most of this game's story just involves Mega Man and company thwarting the continuous schemes of the Bond family, like pretty lighthearted stuff. Then we get to the climax and everything's turned upside down and gets impressively dark, goddamn. It's like Capcom from day one always had plans to give this game sequels to elaborate on details further down the road. And I mean, if Capcom was confident enough to go down that route, okay, but this sort of thing always has risks, you know? What if the first game didn't sell well? What if it didn't interest people? Well, then you have a game that's admittedly anticlimactic on its own terms. And I get the strangest feeling this is not going to be the last time I'm going to be saying this. Or not. The story of Mega Man Legends doesn't really work in a bubble. No, it is clearly the first chapter of a larger story, so by itself, I don't think it's particularly good. Lots of loose ends by the end, too. Roll's said to be searching for her parents. Yeah, that's a plot point established as early as the opening minutes of the game, but it's quickly forgotten about until it's mentioned again at the very end of the tale. So, a story for another time, I guess. Then there's Tron's true feelings towards Mega Man, and she's developed a crush on him throughout the adventure. And of course, there's the entirety of Volnut's backstory and everything that entails. Like, I am intrigued, and knowing there's a prequel and a second game to look forward to after this, I'm interested to see how these elements are resolved. If they are resolved. Oh god. But while the story is pretty middling, I still absolutely love the settings and the characters. In fact, the cast of Mega Man Legends might just be my favorite set of characters in the entire franchise. I think we could have used a little more time with Barrel and a couple of other catalog citizens like the mayor and such, but the main cast still delivers. Mega Man Volna is shaping up to be my favorite incarnation of the Blue Bomber for his pure innocence and chummy attitude. When this dude's smiling, I'm smiling. I gotta protect this guy at all costs. I love the dynamic between him and Roll, who herself I also enjoyed. She isn't combat focused, but she gets shit fixed up and ready to go. I love the bit where she can't help but fix a boat and needed repairs and how she helps Mega Man out by using a truck she repaired to ram a gate block in the path. She gets shit done. It gives her agency, you know? She's more than just a robot made in this incarnation. It's just a pity that parental subplot goes nowhere in this game. Oh my god, the Bond family, namely Tron, Teasel, and the Surfbots, what a collectively fun bunch of goofballs.
So what if he digs up a few scraps here and there? He can keep that garbage. All we're after is whatever's behind the main gate. Right, Teasel?
You know, you're absolutely right. Then that will be our new plan. We'll wait for him to open the main gate. We'll let him keep whatever he finds until then. He'll see. It'll be the Bonds who have the last laugh in this game.
That's right!
They're nothing you haven't seen already if you watched your share of comedic anime around this time, but that doesn't make them any less charming in my eyes. They may rock a bunch of large machinery that can cause a bunch of damage, sure, and they are, for the most part, the main antagonists of the game until the end. But every time they're not being a nuisance for Mega Man, they're just a family that watches TV, they have family meetings while drinking coffee, ordering pizza in their downtime. There's a side quest you can later do where you stop Surfbots in a police chase because you think they robbed the bank, right? But it turns out they just took out a loan to open up a burger joint. It's a refreshing change of pace compared to the diabolical mad scientist stick from the other series. Not that I hated those villains, no, I liked Wily and Sigma and Dr. Weil. but I like how Legends takes a different approach, at least until the end, because then we get Mega Man Juno, and he's a little more vanilla compared to the Bonds, but nevertheless unnerving. He never drops that polite smile, even when talking about committing scorched earth. The character portrayal is also a caliber above other Mega Man titles from my experience. There's a real down-to-earth quality to these guys that may seem inconsequential in the larger picture, but I nevertheless appreciate it because it adds a very human nuance to them. There's a bit during the end of one of the sub-gates when Roll just randomly asks Mega Man if he likes some apricot pie when he gets back, and we never see that pie sadly enough, but it's small things like that I really like to see in character interactions. It makes me believe that these characters have lives outside of what they do here, and that they honest to God care for each other no matter how trivial the dialogue might seem. It also helps that the voice acting is genuinely decent, and I was so surprised by this considering the other Mega Man games around this time that had voice acting. But no, this ain't nowhere near as bad as Mega Man 8 or X4. No, the acting is good. It's not great, but it's solid across the board, it really is. I love how naive Mega Man sounds in this. I think it helps that this 14-year-old Mega Man was voiced by an actual 14-year-old around this time, Corey Sevier. But yeah, sometimes he comes off a little stilted, but I think it highlights the lighthearted nature of the character, and it makes his apparent lack of literacy that more believable.
Can you see a switch anywhere?
I don't see any switches, but there's some writing here. Let's see. It says Operations Room 2. Emergency system activation requires direct password input from Eden or the insertion of 3 level 2 or higher prototype Anthro unit ID cards.
What's a prototype Anthro unit?
I thought Roll also sounded good, a little flat at times, but she does a serviceable job. The Bond family, though, was great all across the board. Tron, Teasel, the Serve Boss, the best characters of the game, hands down. My favorite ended up being Teasel. I found him the most fun. Yeah, I just gotta try and tune out that his English voice actor was a convicted pedophile. Ugh, Christ alive. I ended up really liking Catalog's Island as a setting for reasons similar to my praise of Termina from Majora's Mask, though not quite on the same level. Nevertheless, this place feels really alive at points. It's full of a bunch of different residential areas and other businesses with all manner of folks. A handful of them don't amount to much other than one-sentence exchanges, but there's several side quests you can do with the few that give you reason to explore the different sections of the island. Help a gang of kids build their clubhouse complete with a sexy poster of a bikini babe. This must be before body pillows were a thing. Help build better equipment at the hospital to give this girl better rehabilitation. I gotta tell you, she heals up fast as shit when you help her out. One minute she's in the wheelchair, the next she's already up and about like she wasn't injured at all. That ain't science, that's just magic. Again, it's little things that add to the larger picture. What I really like about this is that it adds stakes to the final bit of the game. When Mega Man Juno talks about resetting the population, in other games you don't want this to happen because you're the hero, and it's the right thing to do. But in this case, you've actually gotten to know these people, so you know exactly what you're gonna lose if you fuck up. And I always love to see that. If I die, who else is gonna kick the old town dog, you piece of shit? This isn't unique to Mega Man Legends. You can argue that the same could be said for the folks you meet and help in the ZX games. But maybe it's because a lot of these guys didn't have me going back and forth for 40 fucking minutes to get one measly sub-tank, but I ended up liking the folks in Catalogs more than the others I met in ZX or ZX Advent. Either way, a strong setting, a strong sense of community, it gives me more substance to my end goals, even if this Doomsday scenario was sort of just thrown in my face at the last second. Visually, I think this game is aged like a fine wine. This was something I always loved about Mega Man Legends, the 3D anime aesthetic. It's not very organic. In fact, there's a lot of blocky buildings and contraptions all over the island, but it's nevertheless colorful and full of texture. I love that they went the extra mile with facial expressions during dialogue and cutscenes. And consider the time frame. What was it, 1998? I think about other games around this time, how they were animated, how they expressed dialogue. Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider, Zelda Ocarina of Time. Static faces that bobbled when talking. Okay, it's not really a fair comparison, I'm aware. They all have completely different aesthetics. But I still think it should be said, Legends was a damn good looking PS1 game then, and it's a good looking PS1 game now. I was especially impressed with the motion capture animation. They did really good with this, adding just the right amount of weight to the character's movements without being too exaggerated. I don't have quite the same amount of praise for the gameplay, but I just want to say now, I did enjoy myself. I enjoyed myself more than I thought I would, actually. But let's break it down. Mega Man has been brought to 3D, but the gameplay loop isn't your standard Mega Man formula. There's no Robot Masters or Mavericks or different stages to pick from the stage select screen. Everything takes place within Catalog's Island, and your purpose at first is to simply fix your airship by finding a large enough refractor shard, and then later it's about stopping the bombs from being dicks. So as a certified digger, your job is to go rummaging deep within digging sites and finding treasure of all sorts, from money, boxes containing parts for weapon upgrades, and refractor shards to help get the plot moving. But every site is swarming with Reaver bots, ancient robots of different shapes and sizes that shoot anything on sight. Shit, some of them just try tackling you outright, the fucking jerk. A lot of them can be taken down as easy as pointing and shooting at them, but some have added shields that you need to get around by running circles around them. Or they can be extra aggressive and get up all in your personal space, so you gotta be on your toes to properly deal with those, lest you want to get rocked, man.
I didn't know robots could get headaches.
The money you earn from treasures and enemies can be used in this shop to get yourself some permanent effects like stronger parts for your weapons and more health, healing items on top of that, and defensive boosts. Mega Man Legends is like a hybrid action RPG and Metroidvania now that I think about it. The more you explore, the more money you get from enemies, the better your stats get, and eventually you'll even find different movement upgrades to help Mega Man explore more of the island. You know, like a higher jump. And you really jump like you're on the moon when you have these on too. Strangely, I find the helmet upgrade to be sort of off-putting. I don't know, like, a Mega Man needs their helmet to complete the Mega Man look, but I think Volnut actually looks better without the helmet. What do you guys think? You also get a pair of dash boots too for faster ground travel. I didn't jive with these too much, so I don't like how you have to be at a standstill to even use them at first, and your turning is a little heavy. Shit like this can also happen. Your main weapon is your Buster Cannon. At first, it's nothing special. You can fire about 3 pellets at a time, the range is pretty short, and the power is alright. But by finding different parts in digging sites or by buying them in specialty shops, you can increase things like its firepower, its range, its rapid fire capabilities, and energy consumption for special weapons. Hell, with the right part combinations, you can make your default Buster the go-to weapon until endgame, and I really mean that. Despite all the other special weapons you can unlock or build, the regular Buster can be all you need to deal with threats. It never runs out of ammo, it has homing properties to boot, and you can be more accurate with this game's lock-on ability. Though it's not the best thing against moving targets, you're better off trying to lead the shots yourself. You also can't move while you're locked on, so it ain't as graceful as, say, the Z targeting system from Zelda. Alright, you also have this kick. This can be used as an attack, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's got a bit of a wind-up and it doesn't deal much damage. You can use it to knock some projectiles back, and I thought that was pretty cool. But I was mainly using it to kick this can in the mall to get some extra son of a bitch. Special weapons are still a thing in this game, but I ended up not using them a whole bunch for a few reasons. You mainly get them by finding different weapon parts in treasure chests. You then bring them to roll, and assuming you got all the parts needed, voila, you got a new special weapon. And there's a considerable number of them too. You got your landmines for grounded targets, there was a shield that absorbed hits, a vacuum that helps suck up money from far away, grenades to blow up a cracked ceiling one time, a drill arm to break walls, a beam saber, homing rockets, a fucking death laser, and you can upgrade their effectiveness using money to increase their levels, make them hit harder, or increase the amount of times you can use them. Some of these weapons are pretty good, but you're not only restricted to one special weapon at a time, you also can only swap for another weapon when you're visiting rollback in the truck, severely limiting Mega Man's overall utility. Not to mention some of these weapons aren't very good out of the box, and upgrading them can be very, very expensive. I mean, even after finding a decent means of farming money in this digging site with the vacuum gun, this got very tiring and I just gave up on it. Out of morbid curiosity, I used a Game Shark code after endgame just to see how much I would need to upgrade some of these things to max, and it was absurd, like over $2 million just for 2 of the fucking weapons. I mean, what the fuck? Well, you really don't need to upgrade special weapons that much if you're keen on using your regular Buster, which again, is usually more than enough. And I didn't notice if bosses had a particular weakness to certain weapons. I don't think this game has the rock, paper, scissors element from the classic games. If it does, I mean, do tell. Also, I don't know if this was intentional, but simply strafing around enemies is enough to deal with almost everything in this game. It gets a little hairier with boss battles, mainly because some have very specific weak points like the hatch door in Teasel's mech, or this dude's tiny ass head. God, I hated this guy. But every other encounter can be handled by strafing around them and pelting them with your energy lemons. A little awkward to pull off, but you get used to the flow of it. That said, the controls might take some adjusting regardless though. I don't know why they thought this 3D action RPG with platforming needed tank controls from Resident Evil. No. I ended up using the directional control style. This made basic movement more manageable since all you gotta use is the D-pad, but it made sidestepping and strafing clumsier since you gotta use the shoulder buttons for that. And sometimes I found myself accidentally using the side dodge when I just meant to jump out of the way. Good lord, picking up money before you get the vacuum gun is like a flick to the nuts too. And the money disappears if you don't pick it up fast enough. Why does the money evaporate in this game? Where is it going? The combat always has this degree of stiffness to it because of the controls too. Like, it's manageable, but always teeters on being uncomfortable, and I'm hoping this gets fixed later. It really bit me in the ass sometimes. Again, I gotta mention this dude. This was the worst boss for me. I did discover a cheese strat that made it much easier. It turns out if you hug the wall, he won't harm you after he gets up from his baseball slide. It must be a disjointed hitbox thing, but whatever helps, you know? I entered this boss fight with pitiful health, and I used the save state so that I wouldn't have to do this whole dungeon again if I lost. So I kind of put myself in a scenario where I had to essentially do a no-hit run. Oh yeah, heads up, if you decide to play Legends on genuine hardware, this game doesn't have checkpoints. If you die, your ass is back to the title screen, and you can only save the game by talking to Data, who most times you only find outside of dungeons. So realizing that, I made use of save states in dungeons so that I wouldn't have to backtrack too much. Though I only died a handful of times on specific bosses, so overall I don't think Mega Man Legends was that very challenging. It helps that energy refills and such are not very expensive, and whenever you do talk with Data, he can refill your health and weapon energy and supply you with decent hints if you're lost and need some direction. The game's also not very long either. With almost all the side quests under my belt, I think the only one I didn't do was one involving collecting cats, which I think is just for cosmetic purposes anyway. I clocked in about 10.5 hours game time, and you know what? That was the perfect length for me. I was thinking this game was going to be bloated with things I wouldn't care about, side quests that'll make me lose my mind. I mean, the obstacle course with the dash boots came close. Christ, that got dickishly precise by the end. But besides that, the devs knew when to reel it back, and I never got tired exploring catalogs like how I got burnt out from exploring in the ZX games. In fact, it's strange that this game, which predates the ZX games by several years, ended up being a better Metroidvania for me than those games. Exploring and revisiting catalogs was no issue for me. The island isn't that large to start with, and even so, you can fast travel to all the important areas by simply calling Ro with your walkie-talkie in the pause screen, and boom, she can warp you to where you might need to go next. Inside of digging sites, you always have a mini-map on display, and a larger map you can access at any time with the pause button to get your bearings and figure out where you haven't been to yet. There was no dungeon I found too long, no area I found too cumbersome to explore, no enemy I found too much to handle. Though a couple of times the game would cheap shot me by having an enemy attack me as soon as I enter the room. What the fuck is this, the first Metroid? Yeah, maybe the crocodile bots here from this subgate that jump out from the water walls, they could have had less health. They swarmed my ass too. I almost died to these guys. But this was great. As a late 90s PS1 game is a little antiquated, and the story is definitely the first chapter of an ongoing story. The visuals and presentation are still great on the eyes and ears. Catalog's island is brimming with charm, and it gives you plenty to do without going overboard. Outside of trying to max out special weapons and such, I killed so many bees. But I was never bored, progressing through the narrative, getting all the missions done, and I think that's saying something considering how old the game is and the experimental era it was developed in. Mega Man Legends gets a high recommendation from me. It's now one of my favorites in the franchise. Can't believe I've been sleeping on this for so long. But can the same be said for the next two games in the lineup? Well, I'm not too sure about our next subject because I'm not sure if the Misadventures of Tron plays like the Legends games, but it's just a different character, or it's a completely different spin that's just set in the Legends universe. We'll have to wait and find out. In the meantime, let's thank some more $10 patrons. Where's my list? Alright, so continuing with the shout-outs, James Acosta, Frost Fang, Elijah, Mizox, David Alicia, Powerful One, Hussein Al Ibrahim, Tucker Underlin, Jojo Harder, Josh Gourmet, Skullman, Xeno Jace, J Wolf, Quanner, Geno Sauce Colada, Aeon3, Veil Force, Riley Thompson, Subrunner, Zendial, Griff, Bad Guy Not Fun Guy, John Luivano, King Arthur, Rhyme Wilder, Dakota Smith, Chill Blade, Some Call Me Tim, you'll see my lawyer, Gabriel Davila, Punk with Shades, Christopher, Delta, Nefarious, Anthony Tormenti, Adam Rito, Lance Connor Shea, Trans Rights, okay, Ace Jetstream, Jonathan Youngs, David Sheltrin, Buscore, Christopher Carassi, Steve Hedge, C4 Blaze Yeager, Gabriel Shute, and finally for today, Chris Gardner. More Patreon shoutouts to come at the beginning and end of the next video. You guys won't be waiting too long for that one, I assure you. As always, thank you all for watching. Stay safe out there. Look out for each other. I think, what the fuck did I just topple over? Oh, it's a water bottle. Okay, wasn't sure about that. Thank you for all for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night. Do take care of yourselves.